coming around verse 3, his sisters sent unto him. And this morning we preach part one of this by telling you, go get Jesus. So I want to talk about this morning, go get Jesus. Because buried in the text, just as you may be seated, is an allusion, is an uncharted, unstated fact that if they sent somebody, they had to give that individual some instruction. And the instruction was simply 3 words: go get Jesus. In other words, my brother is sick. In this particular passage of Scripture, we've heard many times used in many places continually as a theme around funerals and death. As a matter of fact, I was up in Michigan and my cousin Wallace used a portion of this text and used as a reference the thought that sometimes we have to go and get Jesus. And from the thought that he put in my mind, God kind of let me develop 2 sermons around this thing to preach to you today, that somebody needs to know that the only avenue you have many times when trials, troubles, and tribulations rise is to have somebody go and get Jesus. You need to understand the positioning of the text. This is not Mary, Martha, and Lazarus went to Jesus. This is not Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were at home and Jesus came to them. The whole text is precluded by the fact that they were in agony, pain, distress. Disaster was setting in at a very rampant rate, and the only thing that they could say was go get Jesus. They didn't say go get Dr. So-and-so. They did not say call the paramedics. They did not dial 911. The only thing they said was go get Jesus. Sometimes in your life, you've got to understand that some of us here have had to tell somebody, go and get Jesus. I said that on this morning, and I'll say it again. Our needs may differ, but the real need is only met when we recognize we have to go and get Jesus. The only way that some of us can get some relief from our load, the only way some of us can continue on the journey is to reach a point where we understand that we need Jesus. Some of us are delaying sending for him because, like the disciples, we view ourselves as super saints. Somebody has supersized our ego. Somebody has supersized our thought and concepts of who we are and what type of man we are and what we can handle. But all of us need to understand you're going to come to a breaking point where things are going to confine you. Things are going to position you where you can't come to Jesus, where you can't even leave your home or your bed. Problems and trials and pressure and grief is going to mount on you so rapidly that you're not going to want to see anybody. You're not going to want to leave. You're not going to want to talk. You're not going to want to pray. And the only hope that you will find is where Martha and Mary are right now. Lazarus can't say a word. Lazarus can't move. Doctors have given up on Lazarus. Lazarus knows he's about to die. So he has family that loves him. And the family recognizes we're at a critical juncture and somebody needs to go and get Jesus. They sent for him because they have need, as I said this morning. When we fail in our faith, when we crumble under our load, when we recognize this is too much for us to bear and we can't crawl from under the load. Sometimes the load on your back can immobilize you. Sometimes what you're trying to carry can become so heavy you can't move. You want to get from under the load, but the load is too heavy and somebody has to kind of help you. It's sort of like when you're lifting weight. Somebody, when you're trying to go higher and higher, you always got to have a spotter. You got to have somebody standing close by that if that load gets too heavy, they can spot it for you. They can lift it up and give you another chance to breathe. You need a spotter. And what they had was a spotter who was a runner. And they looked at the spotter and said, go get Jesus. because I can't carry this weight any longer. I'm immobilized by what I'm under, but I need somebody. I need somebody. I need somebody that can help me carry this load. Go and get Jesus. Sometime on the journey, you've got to recognize that it's no fault of your own that you sometimes fail in faith, because understand, the guy who lifts 200 pounds didn't just come in the gym one day weighing 99 pounds and just grab 200. He had to fail. He had to keep trying to see what he could get up over his head. He failed many times. Sometimes he couldn't even get the weight off the floor, and other times he couldn't get it past his knee, and sometimes he couldn't flip his wrist, even position it up. He had to fail before he recognized what he could carry. And on this journey, you may not have stress to the max yet. You still carrying weights that are no problem for you, but I'm trying to tell you that there's going to come a day where 200 pounds are going to be placed on you, and you won't be able to spot it, lift it, or even think about it. And when you're going down under the weight, you better have enough sense to know how to scream, go! Get Jesus. When the doctor's leaving your loved one and have given it up and told you to call the family, before you call the family, before you do anything, the commercials say, before you call 911, call 411 and ask Gary. You better ask somebody, can they find Jesus? Before I need anybody else, I need Jesus. I cannot bear these burdens alone. You will fail. But that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to get to the point where you understand you can't carry it by yourself. You don't need Jesus when you can do it for yourself. I told you this morning in the message, go get Jesus when you need him. Go get Jesus when you know him. Go get Jesus when you know where he is. And now I want to take it from you to him. I want to kind of look at it and understand that sometime when we are sending folk after Jesus, we have to look at the setting, the scenario, the situation that Jesus has placed us in. Look at the text. This is not anybody dying here. This is Lazarus. Look at the text. If there's anybody, I told you, who felt that they could call on Jesus. This is the family where Jesus had called on their home many times. Remember, Jesus said, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man have no place to lay his head. He was what you would call a vagabond. He was what we would describe in today's terminology, a homeless man. He had to set up residence wherever he could find a lodging place. Well, whenever he came to Bethany, he had a home. He had a room, tradition says, that Martha had prepared out of her access and excess. She had provided lodging, food, and comfort. He had a place where Lazarus and his boys would keep the crowds away from the door, where he could come in and Mary would wipe his... He had to keep trying to see what he could get up over his head. He failed many times. Sometimes he couldn't even get the weight off the floor, and other times he couldn't get it past his knee, and sometimes he couldn't flip his wrist, even position it up. He had to fail before he recognized what he could carry. And on this journey, you may not have stretched to the max yet. You still carrying weights that are no problem for you, but I'm trying and have given up and told you to call the family. Before you call the family, before you do anything, the commercials say, before you call 911, call 411 and ask Gary. You better ask somebody, can they find Jesus? Before I need anybody else, I need Jesus. I cannot bear these burdens alone. You will fail. But that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to get to the point where you understand you can't carry it by yourself. You don't need Jesus when you can do it for yourself. I told you this morning in the message, go get Jesus when you need him. Go get Jesus when you know him. Go get Jesus when you know where he is. And now I want to take it from you to him. I want to kind of look at it and understand that sometime when we are sending folk after Jesus, we have to look at the setting, the scenario, the situation that Jesus has placed us in. Look at the text. There's not anybody dying here. There's Lazarus. Look at the text. If there's anybody, I told you, who felt that they could call on Jesus. This is a family where Jesus had called on their home many times. Remember, Jesus said, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man have no place to lay his head. He was what you would call a vagabond. He was what we would describe in today's terminology, a homeless man. He had to set up residence wherever he could find a lodging place. Well, whenever he came to Bethany, he had a home. He had a room, tradition says, that Martha had prepared out of her access and excess. She had provided lodging, food, and comfort. He had a place where Lazarus and his boys would keep the crowds away from the door, where he could come in and Mary would wipe his dusty feet, sometime with water, sometime with perfume, and dry him with her hair. He had a place where Martha was always busy cooking up his favorite meal and preparing a place for him. He had a place where he could go and lay his weary head. So if anybody had the right to say, go and get Jesus and expect him to come, it's this family. Because what did they say? They said, tell him, he whom thou lovest is sick. This ain't any man. This ain't Nick next door. This is Lazarus whom you love. Go tell Jesus that Lazarus is sick. I don't know if you've ever had to tell him that. But many times in our family situations, we have to kind of ask somebody to go and get Jesus. Let me bring it in for you. As I said this morning, you don't know when you sent somebody to get him. When you sent somebody and said, look, will you pray for me? I'm under the gun here. Will you pray for me? What you were saying was you knew there was no transition or no mighty power in my prayer. You were saying that I need somebody who can reach heaven, who can go get Jesus and bring him to my situation. I don't need you to just pray, because idle conversation ain't going to change a thing. I need somebody who can reach up to heaven, be a messenger, go get Jesus and have him come to my situation and tell him the one who you died for is sick and needs your help. believe something. You got to know that Jesus may not come because you're sinful, but he only comes when he can get some glory. Just to heal. Doctors can heal. Many of us have checked in the hospitals and bragged about our good doctor who brought us miraculously through our situation. We bragged about our comforting nurses who knew what to give when we were in pain and eased our pain, washed our body, soothed our brow. You don't need Jesus then, because Florida Hospital, ORMC, Dr. So-and-so is getting all the glory and all the credit. Jesus only wants to show up when the doctor has said there's nothing else I can do. When the nurse has said, I'm afraid to go in there because it brings tears to my eyes. When the family don't want to gather around the room, but want to wait in the training family room because they can't stand to see you. When money can't buy enough medicine. When prayer is not changing the situation. That's when Jesus is looking on the horizon for somebody running in a hurry that's saying, I've been told to go and get Jesus. Because nobody else can do it now. When you go get Jesus, then you begin to understand that he says in Psalm 50 and 15, call upon me in the day of trouble, and I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. This morning I told you to go get him when you need him. Now I'm going to switch it and show you what happens through the rest of this text when your need is not what you think. Here, verse 4. Jesus heard that, and he said, this sickness is not unto death. But what is it for, Lord? It's for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified. There is something else in there. If you go down to verse 40, and in verse 40 it says, said I not unto thee that if thou would believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God. Sometimes I want to go and get Jesus because my need is to see his glory. There is something about the glory of God that has a way of overshadowing my pain. There is something about the glory of God that kind of lets me understand it's not in me, but it's all in him. It was when the children of Israel were in the wilderness and the glory of God came down from heaven and covered the tabernacle. They forgot that they were in a wilderness and realized they were on their way to a promised land. Sometimes you need to know where you're headed. And sometimes you need the glory of God to overshadow your need. This sickness is not an end in itself, but on the contrary, it's to honor God and promote his glory. I want to help somebody here. What you're going through is not an end. You will get through the other side. You will make it on tomorrow. Right now, you're saying that there is no way you're going to make it. There is no way you've given up hope. Your tears are too strong. Your heart is too crushed. Your mind is too confused. But you need to understand the same God that has you sitting here today listening to my voice, because you've had some other rough times. You've gone through some other storms, trials, and tribulation. You've gone through some breaking points where you didn't think you can rise, and yet here you are facing another battle, another challenge, another situation, and the same God who brought you through that is going to bring you through this, and all he's waiting for is for you to give him the glory. Sometimes I need to go get Jesus so that I can tell him thank you. Sometimes I need to go get Jesus so that I can see see his glory. Sometime I got to recognize the time, the needs and the issues are not met because Jesus has not yet been glorified. John chapter 9 verse 3, blind man 38 years sitting by the road, born blind. Lord, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he is in this situation? Jesus responds, neither have this man nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. In other words, I need somebody to see who I am. I need somebody to see that I have all glory in my hand. All this happens to us is that we need to get ready. Because what Christ is saying is Lazarus is going to sleep. Look at the text. Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. But when he heard the word, he abode there 2 more days. In other words, he just hung out. Well, Jesus, we gonna go? Lazarus sick. He knocked down. We going. They didn't have cell phone. Couldn't nobody text him and say, hey man, don't worry about it. He did. They didn't have that. They didn't have Facebook. Nobody could put a post on the forum. Pray for Martha and Mary. Lazarus just transitioned to be with the Lord, home going. So he didn't know. He just waited. Too late, because if he got there when they wanted, would have been like it was all in them. They were calling the shots. He had to make sure they knew it was in his hand. And understand that the Bible says that Bethany was a 1-day journey from Jerusalem. Jesus stayed there 2 days and then left on the 4th day coming back. So that's 4 days Jesus was there, which indicates from the reading of the text that when the man left running to go get Jesus, Lazarus died right when he left. So what they didn't know was Lazarus was already dead. So Jesus sat there with all knowledge waiting for 2 more days because he had to get there when they knew beyond the shadow of a doubt. The boy was not in a coma. The boy was not sleeping. The boy had not taken some drug that knocked him unconscious. The boy was dead for 4 days, and by 9 he stinketh, but God sinketh. When you sin for me, it's not what the doctors have said. It's not what the mortician has said. It's not what natural science defines. When you sin for me, it's for the glory of God. And with me, all things are possible. What you think can't happen will happen. If you only believe, you'll see something you never saw before. Not only was he dead, but he'd been buried for 4 days. I ain't got to do nothing but say a word. To see the glory of God, all I got to do is say a word. I don't have to lay hands on it. I don't have to run around the tomb 7 times. I don't have to pour holy water on the outside. All I got to say is come forth. Sometimes to see the glory of God, you need to listen to the word of God. Sometimes to see the glory of God, you need to open your ears and let God speak a word into your mind. Lazarus is dead, but Jesus does not seek the rising of Lazarus. He seeks the glorification of his personage, because Lazarus had to die physically that he could live spiritually. You don't understand? All of us got to die. But all of us don't have to live on the other side. You have to understand, his glory comes in the resurrection, not in the burial. And so when he does all that he needs in our situation, and I'm going to move to the next point, then he says, therefore, when he went out, now, John 13:31, is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. You need God's glory. But then the other thing I saw in the text in verse 14, Jesus now is getting ready to leave. He says to his disciples, Lazarus is asleep, verse 11. The disciples say, Lord, if he sleep, he do well. Because when a person's sick, if they sleep, don't wake him, he sleep. That's a good thing. He's trying to recover. But Jesus said, no, he's not doing well. They continued to debate. So finally, Jesus said in verse 14, Lazarus is dead. And I'm glad for your sake that I was not there, to the intent that you may believe. In other words, sometimes the need is not only for glory, but the need is for you to believe. Some of us say we believe, but don't really believe that God can do everything but fail. Sometimes God has to put our back totally against the wall, where every other avenue is gone, and you recognize that there is no hope. God has to put us in a no-hope situation, a no-win situation, a no-negotiating situation. God has to put us flat down for us to believe that God can lift us up. Sometimes, dearly beloved, you got to go get Jesus. When you recognize that your own faith is waning, you've got to go get Jesus. When you recognize illness that has been treated by others and remedies that you have tried have failed, you've got to go get Jesus. When sleep is no longer a remedy, when you can't sleep your way like Rip Van Winkle through your problems and through changing times, you've got to go get Jesus. When you understand that there is nothing that can soothe your pain, you can't medicate yourself, you can't do anything to put you into a land of Oz, you got to recognize that you've got to deal with the reality that a loved one has passed. You've got to deal with the reality that there is a foreclosure on your home. You've got to deal with the reality that there is not enough money in the world to get you out of this mess. You've got to deal with the reality that there is no friend, lawyer, or companion that can help you through this storm. And the only person that can help you, only when you believe, is Jesus himself. Sometimes I don't need Bernice. I have lovely girls who surround this sanctuary. Bernetta is over there. Larita is over there. Irma is over there. Two of them. Tracy on this side. Yolanda on that side. They got me covered. Y'all just don't know. They spread out over the sanctuary. If they move that way, Bernetta, you got them. If they come over here, Irma, you got them. If they come from the back, we got them. You see, I ain't going to even have them stand because I don't want y'all to know where they are. But they in each section, kind of let you know they got my back. But sometimes, surrounded by all that love, I still need Jesus. Because sometimes when I'm up in the air, when I'm by myself, when I'm over in Detroit or some other area, I got their text messages. I feel their love. I understand their pain. But Jesus wants to see, do I believe that he's the same God up in the air, over in Detroit, back in Orlando, in New Ebenezer, or Mount Sinai? Do I believe that he's the same God that can do everything but fail? See, because I got all that love. But then some folk are hard of hearing. So Melena sits by my door, kind of signing, you better not go there. That's my secret weapon. See, I was going to leave that one under the cover, but I said, well, I better just tell them all what I'm trying to reveal. You have to understand, God does not want you to believe in anything but him. So let me help you and get out of the way. I'm in a situation where I can't make it. So the text says that now they must believe. Jesus calls Martha. I've come. You sent for me. I'm here. Now you and Mary come to me. It says in the text then that Jesus said unto her in verse 23, do you believe your brother shall rise? Mary says, I know he will. She's got faith in the resurrection. Jesus said, no. Listen
to me. Do you believe your brother is going to rise again? Do you understand? I am the resurrection and the life, and he that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Believest thou this? I just need to ask you, do you believe he's able? I just need to know that no matter what you're going through, do you believe that God can? I just need to know, no matter where you are, while you're weeping and crying and moaning and tore up, do you believe God can? Martha is totally tore up. Mary is on the way. She is tore up. And in the midst of the pain, Jesus said, do you believe I'm able? So the question becomes, how many of you really believe God is able? How many of you have ever asked yourself the question in the situation, do you believe that God can bring death out of life? Do you believe that he is the resurrection and the life? Do you believe that a person cannot die who believes in him and that Jesus at any time can bring them back? Do you believe that death may be the ultimate victory in this world, but with Jesus it's just a delay to spiritual healing? Do you believe that no matter what the enemy may say, Jesus is able? He says in John 6:50, if you eat this bread, you shall never die. In John 8:51, keep my saying, and you shall never die. Paul says in Corinthians, though the outward man perish, the inward man is renewed day by day. Why? Because I believe, and if I believe, all things are possible. So sometimes I got to go get Jesus because I've tried everything else, but I just can't seem to make it. I got to go get Jesus when I'm trying to believe. But for some reason, Jesus here keep calling me. And baby, he trying to tell me it's time to close. So let me hurry to a close because Jesus is calling me. And I don't know what he did, but in the text, he called Martha and Mary. And look at the text, he called them around to the grave. And when you watch it, when you go get Jesus, Jesus is going to take you to the point of your pain. If you're really sin for Jesus, you got to recognize that he's got to take you right where it hurts the most. If you're really going to go and get Jesus, Jesus got to make you face the reality of your existence. He did not stay in Mary and Martha's house. As a matter of fact, he did not even go to the house. He sort of stayed back in the way and let them understand this was not a social visit. But if you're sent for me, I've got to deal with the reality of your pain. And so I know, Mary and Martha, that you have been crying because you have buried Lazarus. And buried beneath your appeal to me is a little anger and a little resentment. Because I heard in your word where you said, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I heard in your word that you were a little disappointed because the messenger told you that he told me on Monday. And here it is Thursday, and I'm just gliding into town. And I heard in your word that you were a little disappointed because I did not come when you want. But I don't want to wipe your tears. I don't want to go to your house. I don't want to eat of the repast. I don't want to visit and talk about what a good man Lazarus was. Take me to the place where you laid him. Take me to the place where you buried him. Take me to the place where you put the stone that sealed him in. I want you not to send me, but to take me right where you cried the most. I need you to stand when the tears begin to flow. I need you to stand where your heart got broken, your mind collapsed. I need you to take me where they had to carry you away from. I need you to see the reality that the doctor failed, the mortician did, the friends couldn't pray, but now here we stand at the point of death, burial, and I need you to believe that with God all things are possible if you only believe. I can't make you believe in the church on Sunday. I can't make you believe in your prayer meeting in your home. I need to go to the place where you laid him down. And sometime in your life, you gotta go get Jesus and take him to the place where you laid your life down, where you laid your pain down, where you laid your brokenness down, and said, here I am, can't get up. I tried, but I can't get up. I'm into something that I can't shake loose. Here I am, surrounded by pain. Here I am, stone-walled, stoned in, something blocking me from going forward. I couldn't come to you, but here I am, because I had enough sense out of my grave to shout, God and Jesus. So, here I am, buried. Here I am, sealed up from family and friends. Now what shall I do? Well, the bottom line is my last point. When you can't loose yourself, go and get Jesus. Because the text said in verse 44, there was some stone that had him locked in. But Jesus said a word, Lazarus, Lazarus, Lazarus. That's what Aretha said. Said it called it 3 times. And Lazarus came forth like a natural man. But look at Jesus. He said, loose it and let him go. When you can't loose yourself, when you can't break free, when your pain and when your anguish is too much to bear, go get Jesus and watch Jesus speak to your enemy. Watch Jesus speak to your pain. Watch Jesus speak to your suffering. Watch Jesus speak to your situation. And I hear him say, loose her and let her go. What you want me to loose? I want you to loose her joy, his life, his hope, his living. Loose him, untie him. You've been holding back too long. Loose him, because when Jesus is sent for, he comes to unbind the yoke, to let the captive go free. So loosing. Anybody need loosing? Anybody tied up? Anybody wrapped up in pain, in sickness, in grief, in tragedy? I've come to let you know, go get Jesus. He will loose you and set you free. Because at one time, but found him on a hill called Calvary. Somebody said, go and get Jesus. Man had tried for 42 long generations. Man had prayed, but finally somebody said, go and get Jesus. So he wrapped himself, swallowed his clothes, lived here for 33 years, and then God said it's time, sent a death angel down to Jerusalem and said, go and get Jesus. So he died. He died. He died like Lazarus died, but early. Y'all know the story. Early. It was early. Early. Sunday morning. He got up. He got up. He got up with all power. Oh! 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 He got up with all power. All power is in his hand. Loose him. Let him go. You've been set free. Run on. Keep your joy. Run on. Keep your peace. Run on. Keep your hope. Run on. Because he lives. Because he lives. Because he lives.